The Navy suit cost me 3 months of overtime. I bought it hoping Sarah would be proud at the launch of her law firm. The dream we built over 7 years of marriage and law school debt. In my old Civic, I fixed my tie, parked next to the BMW I co-signed for, still paying $589 a month from our joint account. My account, really. I was the only one working. Her new office was on the 23rd floor, sleek and expensive. I knew the rent. $3,800 a month. Just like everything else. It came from me. "You made it," Sarah said when I walked through the glass doors of her new office space. Her voice was flat, distant, not the excitement I'd expected for what should have been the biggest night of her career. "Of course I made it. This is your big day." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away under the pretense of smoothing down her black Armani dress, the one I'd bought her for Christmas after working overtime for 6 weeks straight. "Our big day," I corrected myself, though something cold was settling in my stomach like I'd swallowed ice water. "Right. Our big day." She turned away, her Louboutin heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked toward a group of her colleagues. The heels I'd also bought her. "David, this is my husband, Mark. Mark, these are the partners from Whitman and Associates." David Hoffman extended a manicured hand. Expensive watch, Italian suit, the kind of confidence that came from never having to check your bank balance before buying lunch. "Mark, Sarah's told us so much about you." That was news to me. "All good things, I hope." "Absolutely. She mentioned you work in—" He paused, waiting for me to fill in the blank. "Insurance. Claims processing mainly." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Once upon a time, I'd had bigger dreams. Management track, maybe even starting my own agency. Before law school tuition ate those dreams alive. "How stable," David said with the kind of smile that wasn't really a smile. No introduction about what I'd sacrificed. No mention of how I'd supported us through everything. Just my husband, Mark, who works in insurance. The evening stretched on like that. Sarah flitting from group to group, accepting congratulations with the poise of someone born to success, while I stood in corners holding a glass of champagne that cost more than my lunch budget for a week. I watched her laugh with people who'd never heard my name, watched her accept praise for achievements that had been built on my sacrifices. "Sarah Henderson," I overheard a silver-haired woman saying to another guest. "I've been following her career since she interned at Morrison and Forster. Brilliant legal mind." "And so independent," the second woman replied. "I don't know how she manages it all. Building a practice from scratch, managing clients, handling all the business side. She must be incredibly organized. Independent." Right. If by independent they meant having someone else handle every bill, every insurance payment, every mundane detail of adult life so she could focus on being brilliant, I excused myself and wandered toward the impressive wall of law books that lined one side of her office. First editions, leather-bound, the kind that cost hundreds of dollars each. I knew because I'd helped her pick them out online, wincing as she added volume after volume to our cart. "Impressive collection," said a voice behind me. I turned to find a young associate, maybe 26, holding a martini that probably cost more than I made in an hour. "Sarah has excellent taste," I replied diplomatically. "Must have cost a fortune, but I guess when you're pulling in the kind of money she'll be making here." He gestured around the office. "This place screams success." "It certainly does." "You're her husband, right? Must be nice being married to someone so driven. I bet she makes more than both my parents combined." I took a long sip of champagne to avoid answering. Sarah hadn't made a penny yet. The firm was brand new, her client list non-existent. Every dollar that had gone into this office, the rent, the furniture, the books, the marketing materials scattered around the reception area, had come from my paycheck. "Mark!" Sarah's voice cut through the crowd. "Come here for a minute." I excused myself from the associate and made my way over to where Sarah stood with a group of older lawyers, the kind of men who looked like they'd never worried about money in their lives. "Mark, I was just telling everyone about your work in insurance," Sarah said, but her tone was strange, like she was setting up a joke. "Oh?" I waited, unsure where this was going. Yes, how you've been so steady, so reliable. Really, Mark's been like my practice husband. She laughed, and a few of the men chuckled along. You know, someone to handle all the boring practical stuff while I focused on the real work. Practice husband. The words hit me like a slap, but I forced a smile. Just supporting my wife's dreams. Exactly. Sarah's voice was getting louder, more animated. Mark's been absolutely perfect for the learning phase. Haven't you, honey? Something in her tone made my stomach churn. Sarah, what are you? I mean, everyone needs training wheels, right? She turned to address the group. Someone to help you figure out what you really want before you make the big decisions. The men were laughing now, but it didn't sound friendly. It sounded like they were laughing at something, not with it. Speaking of big decisions, David Hoffman appeared at Sarah's elbow. Shouldn't you be making that announcement soon? Sarah checked her Cartier watch. Another gift from my overtime hours. You're right. It's time. Time for what? At 9:30, Sarah clinked her champagne glass with a knife, calling for attention. The room fell silent as she stepped onto a small platform they'd set up near the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the Seattle waterfront. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her lawyer voice in full effect. Confident, commanding, the voice I'd fallen in love with when we met in college. This firm represents years of hard work, determination, and the support of those who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I smiled finally. This was it. This was when she'd acknowledge everything we'd been through together. The nights I'd held her while she cried about failed practice exams. The times I'd talked her through case studies until 3 in the morning. The sacrifices we'd made together. I want to thank my professors at Georgetown Law who pushed me to be better every single day. I want to thank my parents, Margaret and Robert Henderson, who taught me that success comes to those who earn it. She paused, scanning the crowd. Her eyes found mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw something familiar there. Something warm. I want to thank the partners at Morrison and Forster, who showed me what real legal work looks like and gave me the foundation I needed to build this practice. And I want to thank everyone here tonight for believing that a woman can build something meaningful from absolutely nothing. From nothing? My chest tightened. I'd given her everything. Sarah, someone called out from the crowd. David, one of the partners she'd introduced me to earlier. What about your husband? He must have been a huge support through all of this. The room turned to look at me. I straightened my shoulders, prepared to accept whatever small acknowledgement she might give. Maybe she'd mention the overtime, the sacrifices, the way I'd put my own career on hold. Sarah's mouth curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, the smile she used in depositions when she was about to destroy a witness. Oh, Mark? She laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Mark has been my trial husband. The words hit me like a physical blow. Trial husband. The room erupted in laughter, nervous at first, then louder and more confident as people realized she wasn't joking. Trial husband, someone repeated, and the laughter grew. That's brilliant. I mean, everyone knows you need to test drive a car before you buy it, right? Sarah continued, her voice carrying over the crowd. Same principle applies to marriage. You need to know if someone can handle the real deal before you commit to forever. More laughter. Cruel, delighted laughter. I guess that means the trial period is over? Sarah continued, reaching into her black Chanel purse and pulling out a manila envelope. She walked toward me with deliberate steps, her heels clicking on the marble like a countdown. The laughter died as people sensed something shifting, something real happening in front of them. Consider this your performance review, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She held out the envelope with a theatrical flourish. My hands shook as I took it. Through the thin paper, I could feel the thickness of legal documents. My throat closed as I recognized the logo of Blackstone and Associates in the corner, one of Seattle's most expensive divorce firms. Sarah, what is this? My voice came out smaller than I intended, barely audible over the sudden silence in the room. Open it, she said, crossing her arms. Don't be shy. We're all friends here. The room was dead silent now. I could feel dozens of eyes on me as I tore open the envelope with clumsy fingers. The first page made everything clear. Petition for dissolution of marriage. King County Superior Court. Divorce papers. You're divorcing me? I looked up at her, searching for any sign of the woman I'd married. The woman who used to curl up against me on Sunday mornings and tell me I was her safe place. Here? In front of everyone? The trial period is over, Mark. You didn't make the cut. Someone in the crowd snickered. Then another. Soon the room was filled with whispers and poorly concealed laughter. 7 years, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. 7 years I supported you, worked double shifts so you could go to school, gave up my own dreams. Oh, please, Sarah interrupted, rolling her eyes in that way she used to do when she thought I was being dramatic. What dreams? Your dream of being a middle manager at Pacific Insurance forever? I did you a favor. The laughter was louder now. Cruel, delighted. Like they were watching a gladiator match and someone had just delivered a killing blow. I sacrificed everything for you, I said, louder this time, my voice cracking with emotion. I paid for your school, your car, this office, these clothes you're wearing. And now you're being dramatic, she said, turning back to her audience like I was part of the entertainment. This is exactly why the trial didn't work out. Too emotional, too needy, too ordinary. The word hit me like a physical blow. Ordinary. More laughter. Someone raised their glass. To Sarah's freedom. To upgrading, called out another voice. To knowing when to move on. I looked around the room, at faces I'd seen at our dinner parties, at family friends, at people who'd eaten meals I'd paid for at our house. They were all laughing, all of them. Even my own sister-in-law was smirking. You know what the best part is? Sarah continued, really getting into her stride now. Mark actually thought this was a celebration for him too. He's been calling it our big day all week. The laughter was vicious now. Someone actually applauded. I folded the papers carefully, put them back in the envelope, and looked at my wife one last time. She was glowing, feeding off the attention, the approval of these people who didn't know her, didn't know us, didn't know what we'd built together. You want to know what's dramatic, Sarah? I said, my voice steady now, cutting through the laughter. What's dramatic is finding out what happens when the trial husband stops playing along. The room went quiet again. Something in my tone had shifted. Mark, Sarah called out as I turned toward the door. Don't be such a baby about this. This is supposed to be fun. I stopped at the glass doors and turned back one last time. No, Sarah, this was supposed to be our night, but you made it your audition instead. I walked through those glass doors, got in my Honda Civic, and drove home in absolute silence. I sat in my home office, our home office, for exactly 17 minutes before I started making calls. The first call was to Tom Richardson, my divorce attorney. Yes, I had my own divorce attorney. I'd hired him 3 months ago when Sarah started working late every night with her colleague David and coming home with excuses that sounded like cross-examinations. Tom? It's Mark Henderson. She served me tonight. Jesus, Mark, I'm sorry. How did she do it? At the party, in front of 50 people, called me her trial husband. There was a long pause. Christ, that's brutal, even for a divorce lawyer. Don't be sorry. Be ready. We're filing first thing Monday morning. What about the separation agreement we discussed? The amicable approach? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Amicable went out the window when she decided to humiliate me in public for entertainment. File everything we talked about. Everything. Mark, are you sure? Once we go nuclear, there's no going back. Tom, she handed me divorce papers like it was part of her opening act. She made me into a joke in front of people I have to see at family gatherings for the rest of my life. Nuclear is exactly what I want. Okay, I'll have the papers ready by Monday, but Mark, this is going to get expensive. Let me worry about that. The second call was to my bank. Hi, this is Mark Henderson. Account number 4471-8832. I need to remove someone from my accounts immediately. Certainly, Mr. Henderson. What's the reason for the removal? Divorce proceedings. I need Sarah Henderson removed from all joint accounts, effective immediately. I'll need to put you on hold while I process this. While I waited, I pulled out my laptop and started making a list. 7 years of marriage had created a web of financial connections that Sarah had never bothered to understand. She'd always left the boring money stuff to me, content to focus on her studies and career while I handled everything else. The car insurance. I was the primary policyholder. Her BMW was on my policy. The office lease. I was the co-signer with better credit. Without me, she'd never have qualified for that corner suite. Her business accounts, joint accounts that I'd helped establish when she started the firm. The mortgage. The house was in my name only because her credit hadn't been good enough 3 years ago when we bought it. Her health insurance, through my employer's plan. Premium coverage that cost me an extra $300 a month. Her car loan. I was the co-signer. The BMW she drove to impress clients was only possible because of my signature. Her business insurance, professional liability, general business coverage, all in my name because it was cheaper that way. Even her bar association dues came out of our joint account. Her continuing education credits, her professional wardrobe allowance, her networking lunches, all of it flowing from my paycheck. Mr. Henderson? I've removed Mrs. Henderson from all joint accounts. Is there anything else I can help you with tonight? Yes, I need to set up automatic transfers to move all funds from the joint accounts to my personal account. All of them, sir? Every penny. Leave the accounts open but empty, and I want alerts set up for any attempted transactions. Done. The transfers will process overnight. Call number 3, the insurance company. Pacific Insurance, this is Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer, this is Mark Henderson, policy number 8473912-847. I need to remove my wife from my auto and health insurance policies, effective immediately. Oh my, is everything all right, Mr. Henderson? Divorce. I need her removed tonight. I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me get that taken care of for you. This will affect her coverage immediately, you understand? I understand. And sir? I have to ask, is she aware this is happening? I looked at the divorce papers still sitting on my desk. She will be. Call number 4, the property management company handling her office lease. Pinnacle Properties, this is Marcus. Hi, Marcus. This is Mark Henderson. I'm calling about the lease for office space at 1247 Corporate Drive, Suite 2301. I need to remove myself as co-signer. Sir, I'm not sure that's possible with an active lease. It's possible. Check the co-signer clause in Section 12 of the lease agreement. I have the right to withdraw my guarantee with 30 days' notice. There was typing on the other end. Hold on. Let me pull up that contract. Oh my, you're right, sir. But this would make the lease invalid unless they can find another qualified co-signer within 30 days. That's not my problem anymore. Sir, the tenant would be responsible for the full lease amount immediately if she can't find a replacement. Guarantor. We're talking about, let me see, $87,000 for the remaining term. Like I said, not my problem. Call number 5, the luxury car dealership. BMW of Seattle, this is Derek. Hi, Derek. This is Mark Henderson. I co-signed on a 2023 BMW 330i for my wife, Sarah Henderson. I need to understand my options for removing myself from that loan. Oh, well, sir, typically the only way to remove a co-signer is to have the primary borrower refinance the loan in their name only, or to pay off the loan entirely. And if she can't qualify for refinancing, then, well, sir, if the payments aren't made, it would affect both of your credit scores, and eventually we'd have to repossess the vehicle. What if I specifically requested repossession? That's not something I've ever been asked before. Let me connect you with our loan department. By midnight, I had made 11 phone calls. By morning, Sarah Henderson would discover that her trial husband had been the foundation holding up everything she'd built. I poured myself 3 fingers of Macallan 18, the whiskey Sarah had given me for my birthday, probably the most expensive bottle in our house, and sat back in my chair. My phone started ringing at 11:47 p.m. Sarah's picture flashed on the screen, a photo from our honeymoon in Tuscany when she still looked at me like I was her hero. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. By 2 a.m., she had called 23 times. I listened to the first voicemail just to gauge her panic level. "Mark, what the hell did you do to our accounts?" "My card was declined at the valet stand. This is embarrassing. Call me back right now." I deleted it without listening to the rest. I woke up Saturday morning to find 47 missed calls and 18 text messages. I made coffee with the expensive beans Sarah insisted on buying, read the Seattle Times online, and took a long, hot shower before even looking at my phone. The messages told a story of escalating panic. 11:52 p.m. "Mark, call me back. There's some kind of mistake with the accounts." 12:15 a.m. "This isn't funny. I can't access any of our money. What did you do?" 12:43 a.m. "Mark, call me now." 1:20 a.m. "You can't just steal our money. I'll have you arrested. This is theft." The phone rang while I was reading message number 14. Sarah's name again. This time, I answered. "Good morning, Sarah." "Mark, thank God. Listen, there's been some kind of horrible mix-up. All our accounts are frozen and my insurance was canceled and—" "No mix-up. I removed you from my accounts." "Your accounts?" "Mark, we've been married for 7 years. That's our money." "Trial marriage," I corrected. "Trial money. And according to you, the trial's over. Don't be ridiculous. You can't just—" "I can, and I did. Check your lease agreement for the office, by the way. Section 12, subsection 4. There was silence, then frantic paper shuffling. I could hear her heels clicking across the marble floor of her expensive office. "Mark, you can't remove yourself as co-signer. I need that office. I have clients coming in on Monday." "What clients?" "You just opened yesterday." "Potential clients. Referrals. This could ruin everything." "Find another co-signer." "Who's going to co-sign for me?" "I just started the firm. I don't have the credit history yet." "That sounds like a problem for Sarah Henderson, independent woman, not for your trial husband." "Stop calling yourself that." I was upset. I didn't mean those words the way they came out. "Oh, you meant them exactly the way they came out. You planned this whole thing. The public humiliation, the divorce papers, all of it. You thought you'd ride off into the sunset with David while I picked up the pieces of my shattered dignity." "David? What does David have to do with—" "Please, I'm not stupid, Sarah. I know you've been sleeping with him for months." Silence. Long, guilty silence. "Mark?" "How long, Sarah? How long have you been planning this little show?" We, it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair, planning a divorce, and waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate me. Congratulations. You succeeded beautifully." It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to let me down easy? Maybe take me out for a nice dinner before you destroyed my life?" "I was trying to be honest. People were asking about you, about our marriage, and I panicked." "You panicked? So you decided to call me your trial husband and hand me divorce papers in front of 50 people? I thought it would be easier, like ripping off a Band-Aid." "Easier for who, Sarah? Because it sure as hell wasn't easier for me." She was crying now. I could hear it in her voice. "I know I handled it wrong." "Wrong?" "Sarah, you didn't handle it wrong. You handled it with calculated cruelty. There's a difference. Please, Mark. I need you to put me back on the accounts. I can't function without access to money. You should have thought of that before you decided I wasn't worth the trouble of a private conversation. I'll fix this. I'll call everyone from the party. Explain that it was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" "You handed me divorce papers, Sarah. There's no misunderstanding that." "Then I'll tear them up. I'll call my lawyer right now and tell him it was a mistake. Too late. I filed my own papers this morning. The line went dead quiet. Your own papers? Did you really think you were the only one with a lawyer? I've been watching you pull away for months, Sarah. Watching you come home later and later. Watching you take calls in the other room. I've been preparing for this. You've been preparing? You planned this? I hoped I was wrong. I really did. But last night proved I wasn't. You want to know the difference between us? I prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. You prepared for the best while planning for the worst. What does that mean? It means I know about David. I know about the credit cards you opened without telling me. I know about the apartment you looked at downtown last month. I know about the consultation you had with Blackstone and Associates 6 weeks ago. I know you've been planning this divorce for months. Her breathing was getting faster, more panicked. How do I know? Because I'm not an idiot, Sarah. You think I didn't notice the charges on our credit card for lunches at expensive restaurants when you told me you were working late? You think I didn't see the mileage on your car after your supposed late nights at the office? You think I didn't notice that you've been treating me like a roommate instead of a husband? Mark, please. I know about the apartment on Pine Street. I know you put down a deposit 3 weeks ago. I know you've been moving money into an account I'm not on. I know everything. She was crying harder now. You were spying on me? I was trying to save my marriage. But you'd already killed it, hadn't you? You just wanted to do it with an audience. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been talking to me about your feelings instead of blindsiding me with divorce papers. Fair would have been couples counseling. Fair would have been treating me like a human being instead of a stepping stone. I never meant, save it, I have a lawyer, talk to him. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off and went for a run through Discovery Park, letting the cold Seattle air burn my lungs as I processed what I'd just done. When I came back 2 hours later, my landline was blinking with messages. Apparently, Sarah had looked up my office number, my parents' number, even called my brother Jake in Denver. I was making lunch when someone pounded on my front door like they were trying to break it down. Mark, open this door right now. We need to talk. I looked through the peephole. Sarah was standing on my porch in sweatpants and a wrinkled University of Washington t-shirt, not the polished lawyer look she usually maintained. Her hair was messy, her makeup smeared. She looked like she'd been crying for hours. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said, trying to push past me. No, we don't. We need to get divorced. Everything else goes through the lawyers. Mark, please. I know I handled things badly last night, but we can fix this. Badly? I laughed. Sarah, you served me divorce papers in front of 50 people after calling me your trial husband. That's not badly. That's calculated cruelty designed for maximum humiliation. I was nervous. I didn't know what to say, and everyone was asking about you, and You just what? Decided to destroy me for entertainment? Decided to turn the end of our marriage into performance art? Her face flushed red. I didn't destroy you. God, you're so dramatic. It's like you think the whole world revolves around you. Right, I'm dramatic. The guy who worked 60-hour weeks so you could go to law school is dramatic. The guy who gave up his own career advancement so you could chase yours is dramatic. The guy who just got publicly humiliated by his wife is being dramatic. You act like I held a gun to your head. You chose to support me. Nobody forced you. I chose to support my wife. I didn't choose to support someone who saw me as disposable. That's not... I don't see you as disposable. Trial husband Sarah. Your words. In front of everyone we know. She started crying then. Not the elegant tears she used in court, but ugly, desperate sobs that shook her whole body. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I was trying to sound independent and successful, and it came out wrong. It came out honest. That's not true. Then why were the divorce papers already drawn up? You think I believe you wrote those up in the bathroom during your party? She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. I had them prepared, yes, but I wasn't sure when to use them. You weren't sure when to humiliate me, just that you were going to. It wasn't about humiliating you? Then what was it about, Sarah? Explain it to me. Make me understand how calling me your trial husband in front of 50 people wasn't about humiliation. She looked around frantically, like she was searching for an answer on my porch. It was about, I needed a clean break, for the firm, for my reputation. Your reputation. Yes. Do you know how hard it is to be taken seriously as a female lawyer? Especially when you're married to what, Sarah? Say it. Say what you really think. To someone who's not, who doesn't, who's not what? Rich? Powerful? Important enough for you? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. I'm not successful enough to be seen with you anymore. I was fine when you needed someone to pay the bills, but now that you're rubbing shoulders with corporate lawyers, I'm an embarrassment. You're putting words in my mouth. I'm repeating your words. Trial husband. You said it in front of everyone. She was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. I can't do this without you, Mark. I can't run the firm, pay for everything, manage all the accounts. You should have thought of that before you decided I wasn't good enough for you. I never said you weren't good enough. You didn't have to say it. You showed it. Every time you introduced me as just my husband instead of talking about what I do. Every time you made plans without asking me. Every time you rolled your eyes when I talked about my job. Every time you acted like I was lucky to be married to you instead of the other way around. That's not. Every time you stayed late with David instead of coming home to dinner. Every time you made me feel like I was some kind of charity case you were stuck with. She fell silent, staring at me with red, puffy eyes. Sarah, I loved you. I would have done anything for you. I did do everything for you. And you repaid that by treating me like a stepping stone to something better. I love you too, she whispered. No, you don't. You love what I provided. You love having someone to handle the boring stuff while you focused on being fabulous. But you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then why did you hand me divorce papers in front of 50 people instead of talking to me like a human being? If you loved me, why didn't you come to me when you started having doubts? Why didn't you suggest counseling? Why didn't you give us a chance to work things out? She didn't answer. Go home, Sarah. Call your lawyer. We'll handle this the way you wanted to, as a business transaction. This is my home too. Check the deed. It's in my name. You wanted independence? Congratulations. You're independent. I started to close the door. Mark, wait. She shoved her foot in the doorway. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. You served me divorce papers last night. There's nothing to work out. I'll tear them up. I'll call my lawyer right now and withdraw them. Too late. I filed my own this morning. Her face went white. Your own? Did you really think you were the only one with a lawyer? I've been watching you pull away for months, Sarah. I've been preparing for this possibility since you started working late every night. You've been preparing? You planned this? I hoped I was wrong. I really did, but last night proved I wasn't. You want to know the difference between us? I prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. You prepared for the best while planning for the worst. What does that mean? It means I know about David. I know about the credit cards you opened without telling me. I know about the apartment you looked at downtown. I know you've been planning this divorce for months, just waiting for the right moment to drop the hammer. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. How do I know? Because you got sloppy. Because you started treating me like I was invisible. Because you assumed I was too stupid or too trusting to notice what was happening right in front of me. Mark, please. The difference is, I was going to be fair about it. When I first suspected you were having an affair, when I first realized you were planning to leave, I was going to make sure you were okay. I was going to suggest counseling, maybe a trial separation. I was going to protect you. Then why didn't you? Because you didn't give me the chance. You decided to make it ugly. You decided to humiliate me in public. You turned our divorce into entertainment for 50 strangers. Mark, please. Move your foot, Sarah. What am I supposed to do? I can't pay for the office without you. I can't afford the car payments. I don't have anywhere to live. You've cut me off from everything. You're a successful, independent lawyer. Figure it out. But I need time. I need to build up clients, establish revenue. You should have thought of that before you threw me away like garbage. I didn't throw you away. Trial husband, Sarah. Trial husband. You called our entire marriage a trial run, and then you announced that I failed. In front of everyone. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. And now you get to live with the consequences. I closed the door. The next 2 weeks were the quietest of my life. Sarah called every day, sometimes multiple times. But I didn't answer. My lawyer, Tom Richardson, handled all communication, and the updates he gave me painted a picture of someone whose world was collapsing in real time. She's had to move her practice, Tom told me during our Tuesday meeting. The property management company terminated her lease when she couldn't provide a replacement cosigner with adequate credit. Where did she move to? Some strip mall in Renton. About a quarter of the space, a tenth of the prestige. Her new address is above a nail salon. I felt a small stab of satisfaction. The corner office with the view of Elliott Bay was gone, replaced by something that screamed desperation instead of success. What about the car? Repossessed yesterday. She fell 3 weeks behind on payments, and without your co-signature, the bank moved fast. She called me 17 times yesterday. I'm not surprised. She's also asking for emergency spousal support. I nearly choked on my coffee. Emergency spousal support? She's a lawyer. A lawyer with no clients, significant debt, and no income. Her new office rent is behind, and she owes money on equipment she bought for the old office that she can't afford to move. That's not my problem. I know. I'm just telling you what she's asking for. Oh, and she wants half the house. Half the house that's in my name? Half the house I bought 3 years before we got married? She's claiming she contributed to the mortgage payments. With what money? She hasn't had income in 2 years. With services. Cooking, cleaning, being a wife. Her lawyer is arguing that her domestic contributions have monetary value. I was quiet for a long moment. Tom, file a counterclaim. For what? I want reimbursement for her law school tuition, every penny I paid with interest. I want reimbursement for every car payment I made, every insurance premium, every bar exam fee, every dollar I spent supporting her while she built her career. Mark, that's going to be expensive to litigate, and Washington is a no-fault state. The judge isn't going to care about the emotional aspects. I don't care about the cost. She wants to treat our marriage like a business transaction? Let's treat it like a business transaction. I want a full accounting of every dollar I invested in Sarah Henderson's career, and I want it back. This could drag on for months. Good. Let it drag on. Let her spend every penny she doesn't have on legal fees while she tries to justify why she deserves half of everything I built? Tom sighed. You're angry. I get it. But I'm not angry, Tom. I'm done. There's a difference. Thursday afternoon, I came home to find Sarah sitting on my front steps. She looked terrible. Thin, pale, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. Cheap clothes from Target or Walmart, not the designer pieces I was used to seeing her in. Hi, Mark. Sarah, you look like hell. She laughed, but it sounded more like crying. Feel like it too. What do you want? To talk. Just to talk. I told you everything goes through. I know what you told me. I'm asking you, as someone who used to care about me, to give me 5 minutes. I looked at her for a long moment. She really did look awful. Her hair was unwashed, her makeup smeared, and there were dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't been sleeping. 5 minutes. You can say whatever you want to say, and then you leave. Thank you. I unlocked the front door but didn't invite her in. We stood in the doorway, neither of us moving. I'm sorry, she said finally. For which part? For all of it. For the way I treated you, for the divorce papers, for calling you, for what I called you. Trial husband. Yes? For that. Okay. Apology noted. Is that all? Mark, I made a mistake. A huge, horrible mistake. I was trying to impress people, and I was scared, and You were scared of being associated with me. No, I was scared of being seen as weak. And being married to me made you look weak. That's not... She stopped, closed her eyes. Yes, okay? Yes? I was afraid that if people knew how much you'd supported me, they'd think I didn't earn my success. But you didn't. Not alone. I know that now. You knew it then, too. You just didn't want anyone else to know it. She nodded, tears starting again. I thought if I could just get established, if I could prove myself, then maybe I could acknowledge what you'd done. Later, when it wouldn't hurt my credibility. So you were planning to throw me away temporarily? Just until you didn't need me anymore? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You were ashamed of me, Sarah. Ashamed of what I represented. You wanted people to see you as this self-made success story, not as someone whose husband had to support her through law school. I wasn't ashamed of you? Then why did you introduce me as just my husband at every event? Why did you never mention what I did for work? Why did you act like I was some kind of accessory instead of your partner? She didn't answer. Sarah, you didn't just divorce me last Friday. You divorced the last 7 years of our life together. You divorced every sacrifice I made, every dream I put aside, every time I chose us over me. I know. No, you don't. If you knew, you wouldn't have done it. You're right. I didn't know. I took you for granted. For 7 years. Yes. We stood there in silence for a minute. A neighbor walked by with their dog, pretending not to notice the drama playing out on my front porch. I can't undo it, she said quietly. No, you can't. Is there any chance, any possibility that we could try again? I looked at her, really looked at her. I tried to find the woman I'd fallen in love with in college, the woman who used to bring me coffee when I worked late, the woman who used to tell me I was her hero. But all I saw was someone who had calculated the cost of loving me and decided it was too high. Sarah, do you know what you did to me that night? I hurt you. You destroyed me. In front of everyone we knew, you reduced 7 years of marriage to a trial run. You made me look like a fool, like some pathetic guy who'd been deluding himself about his importance in your life. I didn't mean... You did mean it. That's the problem. In that moment, when you thought it would make you look good, you threw me away like I was nothing. But I realize now you realize it because you need me. Your office lease is gone, your car is gone, you're sleeping on your sister's couch. Now that you're facing the consequences of independence, you want your safety net back. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been talking to me about your feelings instead of blindsiding me with divorce papers. Fair would have been treating me like a partner instead of a burden you had to carry. You're right. You're absolutely right. I know I'm right. The question is, do you actually understand that? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? She was crying again, harder this time. I understand, she whispered. Then you understand why I can't trust you. You showed me who you really are, Sarah. You showed me that when it comes down to it, I'm expendable to you. You're not expendable. Trial husband. Your words, not mine. She fell silent. I loved you, I said. I would have forgiven almost anything. But I can't forgive you making me into a joke in front of everyone I know. I can't forgive you planning my humiliation while pretending to love me. I do love you. You love security. You love having someone to take care of the messy parts of life. But you don't love me. How can you say that? Because someone who loved me wouldn't have done what you did. Someone who loved me would have found a way to handle this that didn't involve public humiliation. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're going to be okay," I said, more gently than I'd spoken to her since that night. "You're smart, you're capable, you'll build your practice back up, but you're going to do it without me. Mark, your 5 minutes are up." She turned and walked down the steps, then stopped and looked back. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo what you did, 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 did,